Did you know that in Siberia, scientists recently found an ancient virus that's been dormant for the last 30,000 years? And that strange creatures, animals that can resurrect, and even aliens are often stumbled upon here? This vast and cold region hides many discoveries, phenomena, and mysteries, which we'll explore together today. This is Infinity, and in this episode, I'll show you the most incredible finds in Siberia, which has driven all scientists crazy. Ancient virus. In 2014, a team of microbiologists from France studied the composition of ice at a depth of 30 meters. The discovery, which they managed to make, shocked scientists. It turned out that at a depth, a dangerous ancient virus was dormant for more than 30,000 years. This was the first find of a viable representative of the family of giant viruses. It's known that immediately after thawing, the virus showed signs of life and the ability to infect, which was tested on amoebas. Tests showed that the size of the virus that settled in single-celled organisms reached 1.5 micrometers. By comparison, the flu virus, known to science, does not exceed 100 nanometers in size, and this is 15 times smaller. Fortunately, the virus, discovered by French scientists, turned out not to be dangerous for people and animals. But this does not mean that there's nothing to worry about. The discovery in Siberia showed that viruses can survive in the ice for thousands of years, and that the melting of ice due to global warming may well provoke the appearance of real epidemics of ancient diseases on Earth. Scientists fear that the melting of permafrost could awaken epidemic diseases unknown to modern civilization. However, viruses that have made it to the surface do not always come to life under the strict control of scientists. In August 2016, the residents of Yamalo-Nenets Autonomous Okrug struggled with an outbreak of anthrax in the Yamal Peninsula. The cause of the epidemic was the rapid spread of the virus among reindeer, which resulted in the death of more than 2,000 animals. Scientists believe that abnormally high temperatures, which resulted in anthrax spores melting out of the permafrost, contributed to the new outbreak of the disease. However, it was too late to deal with the root cause. Urgent measures had to be taken to prevent the epidemic from spreading. Several groups of military personnel, including specialists in chemical and biological weapons, were dispatched to the area where the disease was found. The locals in the risk zone were immediately evacuated and relocated 40 kilometers away from the epicenter. Thus, the local epidemic of 2016 was handled. But what awaits us next? The mystery of craters. A lot's happened on the Yamal Peninsula in the past few years. For example, strange craters began to appear there. Scientists still can't say for what reason exactly this is happening. The first crater, about 20 meters in diameter, was spotted in July 2014 by a helicopter crew doing a routine patrol of the area. The blocks of ice and soil were scattered many meters around. Only an explosion of unprecedented size could have caused such an effect, but none of the locals saw or heard anything. But in 2017, the appearance of the crater was preceded by the testimony of a reindeer herder. The man said that he heard a strong explosion and saw clouds of smoke on the horizon. After checking the information, another crater was discovered, slightly inferior in size to its predecessor. But how did the mysterious explosions occur? Scientists speculated that the blast might have originated underground. Some researchers have jokingly dubbed hypothetical detonations ice volcanoes, but such phenomenon has nothing in common with volcanoes known to us. Although the recipe for such an explosion is relatively simple, requiring only a certain concentration of methane, ice, water, and soil. But why hasn't something like this happened before? According to scientists, global warming is to blame. It causes the increased concentration of methane in the lower layers of soil. But despite understanding the mechanism, scientists cannot predict the appearance of the next craters. Did you think it would all be limited to viruses? It turns out that scientists found more complex organisms in the melting permafrost. They were really surprised when worms, frozen in the ice about 42,000 years ago, came back to life when thawed. The discovery of multicellular organisms elated the researchers. They're now trying to figure out what allowed the worms to revive after spending many thousands of years in the permafrost. Perhaps the results of these studies will be the key to cryogenic freezing of humans. Surprisingly, even zombie worms are not the most shocking find in this episode. Do you want to know how one specific find in Siberia really drove scientists around the world crazy? Then stay tuned. All the most interesting details are further. Let's move on. Those who still do not believe that real wonders can be hidden in the snows of Siberia, listen carefully. Recently, scientists managed to find a mammoth carcass in the ice which was untouched by time and undecomposed. Of course, unlike worms, it was impossible to bring it back to life. but the degree of preservation of the body was amazing. Even the blood in its veins was preserved. By the way, thanks to blood cells, scientists had a chance to repopulate the planet with mammoths. Of course, any experiments in this regard are still only at the stage of discussion, but biologists are more than serious. Why not? After all, mammoths disappeared from the face of the earth relatively recently. The last mammoths went extinct only 4,000 years ago. But by the standards of history, this is almost yesterday. The idea to recreate mammoths occurred to scientists back in the 1980s. Over the past 20 to 30 years, genetic engineering and biotechnology have made such a breakthrough that it's unlikely any other field of science can match them. Scientists have learned to create genetic copies of cells and even genetic copies of whole organisms. They've learned to read genetic information and operate on it. Of these methods, cloning is the easiest one. First, it's necessary to find a living mammoth cell. Good thing that well-preserved remains have been found recently in the permafrost. Then it's necessary to grow an embryo with the help of a surrogate mother, a female Asian elephant. At first sight, everything's simple, but there's one problem that practically puts an end to this method. It's very difficult to find a living cell with a whole nucleus, because it's one thing if the species went extinct yesterday, but it's quite another if it became extinct thousands of years ago. Too much mercury. In its pure form, mercury is harmful to animals and humans. Once significant amounts of mercury enter the food chain, serious consequences for the entire ecosystem cannot be avoided. But what's Siberia to do? After all, many experts say that there's the world's largest mercury reserve. They estimate that Siberia contains about 1.7 million tons of the substance, which is almost twice as much of the rest of the planet, except it's scattered deep in the permafrost. Or is it not very deep? Mercury is accumulated since the last ice age. Over thousands of years, the toxic substance in the atmosphere has combined with soil organic matter and deposited in the permafrost. The question is, when mercury will begin to be released from the melting permafrost in such quantities that it will be a danger to humans. As a result of global warming, the permafrost is melting. Experts believe that in 100 years, this layer will shrink by at least a third. Toxic metal can escape into rivers and oceans, penetrate the soil and water sources with rain, and accumulate in the microorganisms that larger living things feed on. The Siberian alien. In October 2017, 2 Irkutsk residents discovered something truly frightening in a snowdrift. 2 students went for a walk and, on their way, discovered the body of a creature unlike any other inhabitant of the earth. The young men confidently stated that they had discovered the body of an alien who had come from outer space and died in the snows of Siberia. The video and photos they shot were successfully sold to one of the Russian TV channels. Once on the internet, the footage also created a furor. Of course, there were ufologist specialists in the internet who claimed that it was indeed an alien creature. This was proved by its appearance, the height of about 1 meter, green skin, and body without clothes or hair. Experts assert that the alien died a tragic death because it didn't expect Siberian winters to be so severe. And here's a find that's really driven many scientists crazy. It's not every day that a new species, not only unknown to science but also unlike any other animal inhabiting the Earth, is discovered in Siberia. Miners found this unique creature on the territory of Yakutia. The body of the monster turned out to be mummified, but it was well preserved. The body resembled that of a bird, but where did the bird get its fangs and claws? No doubt the creature's relatives are long gone. It's not a particularly surprising fact for a find from Siberia. This is where many well-preserved remains of ancient giants have been found. Despite the small size of the monster, scientists believe that the creatures like it may very well have inhabited the planet during the Mesozoic. At the same time, the monster from the mine is not the only monster from Siberia. The ancient legend of the local analog of the Loch Ness Monster is very interesting. The old-timers believe that the animal's been living in the lake since time immemorial and is extremely aggressive. That's all, guys. What unusual and interesting facts about Siberia do you know? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching and see you later.